everybody? Welcome to the Cheese Talk podcast. I am your host, Brian, and tonight I am joined by Landry, as I know him as Cheeseheads Weekly on, I still call it Twitter. Sorry. Big Packer fan. But before I get to my guest tonight, I want to give a special shout out to the Open Network for giving me letting me do the podcast under their umbrella, Ohana Packers Network. Landry, what's up?
I'm doing great. It's football time. We're back and excited to be here.
Yeah. Let's go back to like the start of the off season. Obviously, it's been a few months, but what are your thoughts on first the acquisitions of Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney?
You know, I, like all Packers fans, was very much into the McKinney signing, and that was kind of the headliner for me going into the offseason, looking at, potential targets as for free agents. McKinney was pretty high on my list and kind of was the guy I picked out as, the guy I would really like them to sign. And they did. I was really excited about that. The Josh Jacobs one was a little bit, give and take. I'm a very big fan of Aaron Jones and was not exactly excited to see him leave. But I am excited for, the potential Josh Jacobs has and, what he can bring to this offense as, kind of a dual threat back, being able to catch the ball out of the backfield and also run and potentially shoulder a larger share of the workload than perhaps Aaron Jones was able to. So it definitely, I think both are overall very good signings.
Right. Now, you mentioned that you're a big fan of Aaron Jones. For about an hour, Packer fans had like the thought of, oh my gosh, we have Jacobs and Jones. Did you think the Packers were like on the verge of releasing him?
I did not necessarily, but I kind of saw the news after everything went down. So I was not really living in that hour of time
I was.
I thought of them. Yeah. So I don't really know exactly what I would have been thinking, although I certainly did not expect them to keep both, especially looking back on it. Like, it didn't really make a whole lot of sense for them to go sign another great back when you have a great back in Aaron Jones. So it definitely made sense that they released him and just, kind of signed Jacobs as his replacement. But yeah, that definitely would have been an interesting duo to watch if that were the case.
Right. Yeah, then I don't know. I was kind of happy to see A.J. Dillon come back, but then it sucks because he's out the rest of the year. It's kind of took kind of hit the team. Not hard, but he's a leader out there on the field and in the locker room, and he knows the playbook. He can help the younger guys out. Mm-hmm. It just sucked to see the news. It's like seeing him not play. It's like something's got to be going on in the preseason. And next thing you know, he's out with he had, what was it? Like, was it stingers in his neck?
Yeah.
So I mean, that sucks. Especially he worked so hard to get in good shape. I think I don't know if he chiseled down or he just looked better than he has since he's been in Green Bay. And it sucks not having him out there with the guys. But he'll be. What isn't he doing, like podcasting from? Probably from, I'm assuming, from his home during the game, or on Twitch or something like that. I think he's doing.
I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, I think he's live streaming during the game on Twitch, and he's like this is. Okay. I didn't look too much into it. I just kind of heard it, but what are your thoughts on the Packers draft this year? Like, obviously, I like the draft of Michael Pratt. Sucks to see him get. I thought he would have beat out Clifford, but
yeah,
they both kind of didn't really show too much in the preseason, to be honest. What are your thoughts on the draft and from the draft to where we are now, going, less than an hour or about an hour and 10 minutes from kickoff in Brazil?
Yeah, I think overall, from the first look at things, it looks like another, vintage Goody draft class. It looks very good. It looks like we found a few steals. Now, again, we have not seen them play in the regular season, so it is very difficult to tell. We have not really seen Jordan Morgan play. I don't believe he played in any preseason games. If he did, it was not very much. That was kind of the pick that was a little bit controversial there in the first round. It looks like he has a legitimate chance to win a spot and was at one point kind of, uh, I guess, in in the front, kind of the front runner for that right guard spot. He did get injured, and it looks like maybe Sean Ryan. My guess would be that Sean Ryan starts, and maybe it's a little bit of a rotation. Uh, and Jordan Morgan, I think, could very easily take over that job, halfway through the season. But as far as the rest of the class, we haven't seen a whole lot from Cooper. He's been injured. A lot of fans really like that pick. Um, but I really like the safeties, Bullard, Williams, Oladapo has been injured as well. But we've seen some really good things. Evan Williams, especially, had a very, very nice camp. Lots of interception. Very, very nice to see. And, they're looking for that starter next to McKinney there at safety. And so I think it's going to be a little bit of a rotation. I do think Bullard is the starter, but I do think, Williams is going to see the field. And, he kind of played himself into a role. And you mentioned Michael Pratt. I think with that Michael Pratt business, I did Clifford. It certainly looked like it. And I think what the Packers were looking for when they traded for Malik Willis was that with a little more experience. And so that's why they were kind of willing to bring Clifford back and let Pratt go, despite the fact that maybe they did like some of the things they saw, but they just really didn't need another developmental guy when they traded for Malik Willis, who kind of is that guy. And then you want to keep a guy with experience and that kind of knows the playbook in Sean Clifford on the practice squad.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Edgerrin Cooper, and I think he's going to get a go tonight. I think they're going to play him. He's not on the injury report. There's like two guys that are questionable, I believe. But other than that, this is the healthiest we've seen our team going into a regular season game. And I mean, how many games? All last year, we always Thursday, Friday before the Sunday game. All of a sudden, Jair pops up on the injury report, or Stokes, and they brought Stokes back, and he got hurt again. And I think it's a huge shout out to the Packers on cleaning house with the strength and conditioning coaches and getting some guys in there that mean business. I think they show what kind of a team they are when they sent Stokes and Christian Watson. I don't know if they went to Madison or whatever, but had like a hamstring specialist, evaluate them and try to and see what's going on. And that's when they figured out that Christian was using whatever they figured out seems to be working, because he hasn't been on the injury report. If he has, not more than a week, What do you think? Do you think getting
very nice to see, a healthy offseason for him?
Yeah, it is. And I think Stokes can be our number 2 corner. I really do. I loved him in his rookie year. There's plays where he got beat, but he had the speed. He had the speed to catch back up, to make up for getting beat. You know what I mean? And people wanted to get Cooper DeJean in the draft, and I was just ready to jump out my window, because I think, I don't know, a cornerback from the Big Ten, unless he's like a solidified stud, like a Charles Woodson type corner, I don't want him. You know what I'm saying? Like, you go from like the Big Ten to the SEC, and I think the competition is a lot stiffer for the SEC competition versus some of these guys the Big Ten play. So I didn't want, if anyone I want to get Kool-Aid McKinstry just because I like the name Kool-Aid, and he did decent at Alabama. But you get Stokes and Javon Bullard; they're both from the same breed of defense, and I mean they're studs in college. They know what it takes to win championships. But what's your overall opinion on as far as do you think Javon Bullard will be the guy starting next to McKinney?
I do. I think he kind of, while maybe didn't make a ton of the flashier plays, I think he was very solid. He showed, kind of why the Packers drafted him, and just the draft capital combined with, the solid camp and preseason. I think he'll be the starter. But again, I do think Evan Williams and potentially Kitano Ladapo eventually as well will get in on the action to an extent.
Yeah, because Williams, the one game where I saw him make he had that the forced fumble, I think, and fumble recovery. He created a turnover. He reminded me of like a Micah Hyde type player, where he was always around the ball trying to make plays. And if we could have a player play like Micah Hyde at safety when he was with the Packers, I'll take that. Micah was a good player for the Packers for years. So still don't know why they got rid of him, but whatever.
Yeah.
What makes this team better than last year's team?
Well, I think it's, a combination of the free agent additions, the new draft class of rookies coming in, and also just the youth of this team. This is an ascending team, and they're going to continue to get better. We saw it, through the duration of last season. Things were a little bit of a train wreck towards the beginning. You had receivers running the wrong routes, a lot of drops, that sort of thing, a lot of rookie mistakes. And so this team is, now 1 year older, another year in the system. And I think they're just going to be able to continue to build on the success they had towards the end of last season. And certainly the additions of some great young studs like Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs. And of course, Javon Bullard, some other guys that will have an impact in year one. Some of those rookies, I think that's all going to hopefully contribute and, set this team up for potentially a long run into the playoffs.
Right. You mentioned last year is kind of a train wreck, and I would say this year with the hiring of Jeff Hafley as a coordinator, it seems to be obviously Devondre Campbell expressed his opinions this last offseason when he went to San Francisco. Jair kind of not necessarily came out and said anything directly at Barry or about Barry, but you tell anybody, your actions speak louder than words sometimes. And I think some of the acting out last year and some of the train wreck was because players didn't want to play for Joe Barry. I just think with getting Hafley, I think he's got the players' respect. You see in training camp, Hafley taking time out to work individually with the cornerbacks, and I just think that people can relate to him a lot better than they did Joe Barry, and they'd go out there and sacrifice their body for a coordinator that believes in them and not trying to make them play through injury. What are your thoughts on the new 4-3 scheme and Hafley?
Yeah, I think it's a great hire. I hadn't really heard a whole lot about him, so I was a little bit surprised seeing him being the hire there. But I think, everything I've heard so far really fits. I've not really heard anything negative to speak of so far. The players seem to be buying into the scheme, and that tends to happen when you're, making things easier for the players, and just, especially the defensive line really seems to be, happy that they get to, kind of be aggressive and just, go after the quarterback, not having to think a whole lot, just going out there and making plays. And that seems to be kind of the makeup of this defense and the way some of these, defensive players are wired. So I think, Halfley brings a different dynamic, a different energy to the defense. And that's certainly something that is going to be interesting to watch, is just how this defense works under the new coordinator Halfley, in this game here.
I think this defense is going to be really good this year because you got Clark, Gary, Preston Smith on the line, captains. Then you got Quay Walker. You got Quay Walker, McDuffie. McDuffie's been there. He's a tackle machine. Let's be honest. He's in every tackle. 58's right there. You got leaders at every level of defense. Then you add McKinney, who was a captain with the Giants. Then you got Jair. Then you got Stokes, and you got. It's just this defense is like on paper is like one of the top defenses in my opinion in the NFL this year.
Yeah. No, I agree with that, and that's kind of what I thought the last few seasons. Last season they looked so good on paper as well. They're just stacked with talent. And Brian Gutekunst has used so many first round picks on the defense, and it's not really all come to fruition. And we're kind of hoping that they can jump into top 5, and that'll help the rest of the team kind of push them over the edge potentially. But yeah, they really haven't lived up to their potential, I feel like. And so the hope is that, with a complete change of scheme, you completely hit that reset button and get a complete refresh and see what they can do here in week 1 versus a pretty good Eagles offense.
Right. And I don't think Halfley's going to have Preston Smith on Devontae Smith tonight, as like Joe Barry would have lined up on a court. And it's like, it's not even that. It's like, I don't know, like last year when they're cornerbacks that were like 10, 13 yards off of the receiver on like 3rd and 7. It's like, how is that even possible? And if Joe Barry's up in the booth, how can you not see that? I remember there's a picture last year that I wrote on, and it's like, obviously you can count the yardage because they have the yard markers, and there is like cornerbacks like on 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 10, 15 yards off the ball. Well, all you gotta do is snap the ball. It just didn't make any sense. And then that's where I think the players lost, or Joe Barry lost the players. He just couldn't do anything, Yeah. And I don't think Halfley is gonna make that mistake. You know what I'm saying? So let's just hope that we don't see that this year from the Packers defense. Let's just say that. That was crazy.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, the way a lot of these players are built is to play a little bit more aggressive. Like I think Jair Alexander, Eric Stokes, some of those guys are better suited for more press coverage and like to be, more physical and, aggressive. And that certainly seems to be the case with the new additions, McKinney and Bullard there at safety as well. So it should be interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah. Bullard, I was watching some of his highlights in college. He's a hitter. He's like a wrecking ball coming in at you. What do you think was the turning point last year in the Packers team? It seemed like the first, 3, 4, 5 games is kind of like still trying to figure things out, and then all of a sudden they went on a tear. What do you think was a turning point during the Packers season last year?
Well, I think it was kind of just everything came together all at once, I guess. And they had that game against the Rams. And, you're playing against a backup quarterback, and, that severely limited them. And so the Packers are able to get that win, and that's a confidence builder that really helps, get the momentum, changed in the right direction. And then I feel like they just kind of, they did have a loss after that. I don't remember who they played, but that kind of, I think, was, a little bit of the turning point there, just to kind of get that momentum turned back in the right direction. And, the receiver after that, receivers really started to mesh, they had a little bit more chemistry and really started going. And then I think when Aaron Jones made his return, that really, pushed him over the edge. And that's really when they started taking off. I think that, the run game and, having a guy like Aaron Jones, running for 100 yards every single game, that is certainly a huge benefit to your offense and to your passing game as well. So I think just really that everyone kind of, figured it out kind of at the same time, and things just started clicking from there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you mentioned like the receivers seem like they all clicked, and people always bring up, try to compare like, oh, who's going to be wide receiver one. I think when you have Watson, Doubs, Reed, and even Wicks out there, they all perform like a wide receiver one. So you could put like the top 4 or 5, top 4 for sure receivers as our wide receiver one, because they all, in my eyes, they all run. I mean, they're all great receivers, and I don't think the last time I can think of a receiving depth chart like this is the cover of Sports Illustrated back in whatever had like Aaron Rodgers and Finley and Cobb and Jones and Nelson. And it's just, I mean, this is just a crazy core of receivers that I don't, and like LaFleur says that he doesn't like taking the questions on who's wide receiver one, because when they're out there, they all play like they are. What are your thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head there, and like there's a lot of people that will say, well, the production is not that of a wide receiver one. Well, that's because they're spreading the ball out so much. I mean, so, and I think it's almost better this way. Sometimes you get, that alpha, in the room, and then if they're not getting, the attention, getting their targets, then, then they're not happy. That disrupts the whole team chemistry and everything. I feel like everyone's young here, they're all willing to let someone else have a game, Reed, the Cowboys game is a great example of this. Jaden Reed was really not even, and, did not do much in that game as well, after being, kind of the most productive receiver for them all season long to that point. And it was and Dobbs show. And so, like, just any given week, different skills, and it's just defenses can't know and where they go with the ball, So that, I think, is very helpful. Lots of diversity, and then it kind of allows Love to spread the ball around, and makes it very difficult for the defense to focus on any one guy, and be able to really quell the passing attack.
Yeah, because like you said, they're all out there and they're all running great routes. They're good receivers. They're good. Yeah, they can catch the ball. Obviously, they're all good. So, and it's like the defense is like, okay, who are we going to double team? And then they're all worried about the receivers, and all of a sudden you got the tight ends with Kraft and Musgrave. Then it's like this, the weapons that could be out there at one single time is just amazing. And like, it's just, I still think back to last year against the Cowboys. What was that? Musgrave that was so wide open that he fall over, or he stayed in his feet. I forgot. Oh no, I think I lost Landry. Oh no. You back?
I am.
No,
Peers.
I was just saying, like last year, I think of like the Cowboys game. Was that Musgrave that was so wide open that
It
they don't
was,
like
yeah,
20 yards? That's just crazy.
yeah,
And to think that you have receivers out there that are lined up for the secondaries, like okay, who are we going to double team?
hmm
Not even thinking about tight ends because once you get a
hmm
double team on, say if you have Watson, Reed, and Dobbs and trips, or spread out amongst the line of scrimmage, and then you got to worry about Kraft or Musgrave coming
yeah.
over. It's just Packers are in a great spot, and I don't like I said I can't remember the last time we were this stacked on offense. Besides that Sports Illustrated cover from like 20 or not 20
hmm
from like 15 years ago, you know.
hmm Yeah.
But do you credit what? So obviously we're in the third consecutive quarterback in a row that looks like he's going to be a stud. What do you think the Packers do for like developing quarterbacks that stick out from the rest of the league?
Well, I mean, a lot of people point to just the fact that they've let quarterbacks sit a few years. They did that with Rodgers, did it with Love now, and I think that certainly could be part of it. Other than that, I really don't know. It's just maybe they get lucky. I mean, it's pretty crazy how everything's played out. I do think you know having that luxury to be a future Hall of Famer like Rodgers, who sat behind Favre, um, kind of does, I think, breed success a little bit. I mean, you can learn from them. And I don't think Jordan Love I don't think we'd be talking about him quite the same if he would have came out and played right away his rookie year. It did not seem to me like he was ready at all, even his second or third year. But they figured out, when the time was right, they made it happen, traded Rodgers, made him the starter. And so far, things certainly look good. And now, Jordan is highest paid quarterback in the league. So certainly a lot to be figured out, I guess. Yeah, we still don't know for sure, haven't seen a full great season out of him. But I mean, you also don't really have to win an MVP, to go to a Super Bowl. So we'll see what happens. But it is pretty crazy how well they've done with quarterbacks over the last few years.
So that brings me to the Bears. So would you have given up on Justin Fields, or would you have just cleaned house and gotten a new coaching staff in there to coach quarterbacks? Or do you think he was uncoachable?
Well, I don't necessarily think he was uncoachable. I don't think he was the answer. I can tell you that much. I would have been okay with them, trying to completely, start over, I guess, with his development, but I don't really think, he's ever really he ever really has the potential to be a great quarterback. And when you have the opportunity to take Caleb Williams, who, was so great in college and everything, and everyone, is saying is a generational talent, I think that's really what you have to do in that situation. So I'm not like a complete Justin Fields hater. I don't think he's terrible. I also don't think he's great either. And so I
Sure.
don't think they were going to get, be able to win a ton of games with him at quarterback, no matter who they put around him. I mean, to be fair, they are building a much better team around Williams than they did around Fields. But um, I don't really think he was the answer for them. And so, they had the chance to take Caleb Williams, and they jumped on that. And I think that was the right move.
Yeah, I guess I never was a Caleb Williams fan. I just hope he doesn't do good against the Packers. I don't think he will either. I think
Yeah.
I mean, he did good in the preseason, but I think if he gets a couple good hits from people in the NFL, he's gonna change the way he plays a little bit. I don't know. I guess we're spoiled in Green Bay by seeing, like you said, Rodgers coming behind Favre and then Love behind Rodgers, sitting a few years and getting that experience versus being, you know, a generational talent and being thrown to the wolves right away. You know, so like Rodgers and Love had the chance to learn the playbook and learn to read defenses and stuff. And I mean, I don't know, maybe Williams will do good, but I don't think he will. That's just my opinion. It could be just because he plays for the Bears. Just, you know, I obviously I'm not a Bear fan, and I always
That's
tease
a valid reason.
Go ahead.
No, but, you're good. Keep going.
No, yeah, it's so I mean, at one point the Bears, you would say, were the Packers' biggest rival, but the last 5 or so years, I mean, we won 10 straight, so we really can't say that anymore. Who do you think the biggest rival to the Packers would be?
And I would say the Lions. You know, they have a very good team, and I certainly would not be surprised if they win the division this year. You know, even with the Packers as good as they are, that's certainly within the realm of possibility that the Lions are just a better team than the Packers. I mean, they have a very good offense, and hopefully they're able to, you know, continue to get better on defense as well. But yeah, I think they provide very good, you know, competition, potentially, you know, I would say top 5, top 3, probably in the NFC. Like, they are definitely one of those powerhouse teams in the conference, and certainly have a good chance to make a Super Bowl run. People have, you know, predicted them to get to the Super Bowl and potentially even win this year. So yeah, I think the Lions are very good competition. And also, I mean, the 49ers the last few years have kind of turned into, it's kind of a rivalry there as well. Packers seem to have a little bit of issues when they end up playing the Niners. So that certainly is a little bit of a team to keep an eye on as well, I guess.
Yeah, I'd go with Detroit and San Francisco as the two biggest, you know, rivals as of lately to the Packers, because once you get, you know, knocked out in consecutive years in the NFC Championship game against the Niners, it's not fun being a fan.
Yeah,
especially when one of your best friends is a Niner fan. That wasn't fun. Who do you think has a breakout year this year for the Packers? I think Jayden Reed will.
Yeah, I certainly could see that. I see a lot of people thinking that, you know, Reed will be, you know, the best receiver. I think there's a lot of guys you could put, you know, in this category. It's kind of hard to tell. You know, Quay Walker is a guy I, you know, kind of needs to have that breakout. Whether he will or not, I don't know, but I'd really love to see an actual breakout year from him. You know, maybe Lucas Van Ness, their first rounder from last year. That could happen as well. But I look at, you know, Romeo Doubs. I think he has not reached his ceiling yet. I think guys have kind of, you know, got a little bit of name fatigue perhaps with him, or maybe it's just the fact that he's in such a stacked receiver room with guys that are, you know, a little bit more flashy perhaps. You know, Watson has the speed, you know, Jayden Reed, very good after the catch and everything. But I think Romeo Doubs is just a really solid receiver that has a potential to turn into their wide receiver one, and kind of maybe replace Devontae Adams. Has a little bit of that in him. Obviously, I don't think he's going to reach that height, but I think he has a great ability to run routes, very, very good hands. And so also is just, you know, Jordan Love's kind of go-to guy at this point. So I think we still have, you know, I think he has the opportunity to break out, you know, even more than he already has, and continue to grow here in this system.
Right. It's funny. I mean, it's not funny. I've been saying since Doubs' rookie year that I think he reminds me of Devontae and Jordy Nelson, like a mixture of both. Just the way he runs routes, the way he goes for the ball, and the way he jumps for the ball in the end zone. I've been saying that for years. I don't think he'll be as good as Devontae was for the Packers, but he'll be not too far away from him when he's done playing football. I think he's just a nonchalant guy that he comes to do his job and he doesn't ask any questions. He just goes out there, you know what I'm saying, and does it. He's from what I've seen, he's not a problem in the locker room. People seem to like him a lot, and that's another thing too with Jordan Love. You know, everyone seems to like they're all around the same age. They all seem like they're really good. Like, you know, they all get along. And I think that was part of the problem with Aaron towards the end of his tenure in Green Bay. That I think, you know, you get these young guys in, the young guys want to make money. And the only way you can make money is put up numbers. And you want to make Aaron happy, because if you don't make Aaron happy, he's not going to throw you the ball. And he has like the teammates walking on eggshells. And all of a sudden he's gone, and it's big relief. Yeah. And people can actually be themselves. They're young. And I think last year they realized they have a lot more potential and a higher ceiling than what they thought. You know, and I just think it's a different vibe in Green Bay for sure, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
And now switching to the defense, do you think Stokes makes a positive impact this year? I know we kind of touched on it earlier about him coming back and hopefully he can play good, but I think he makes a positive impact. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, I think he already has to an extent. You know, we all saw how well Carrington Valentine looked this season, but yet Stokes comes back from the injury and seems to have the number 2 spot opposite Jair on lock at the moment. So that is a good sign. He's been, you know, drawn some praise from players and coaches, just how good he's looked physically. You know, some have said that he looks to be in the best shape of his life at the moment. And so that's great to hear. Hopefully the hamstring issues are fixed and he can go out there, play fast, play to his strengths, and Hafley can kind of help unlock that potential that we kind of saw him flash in his rookie year.
Yeah, for sure. That would, you know, he's playing top notch, and you got Jair on the other side playing top notch. I mean, it's going to be a nightmare, I think, for opposing teams to decipher which way to go when they throw the ball, you know, for sure.
Yeah.
Who do you think the most annoying fans are?
It's got to be Bears fans. That's not a very hard question. I mean, they're always talking trash and they can't back it up. I mean, I can't stand people that do that. So, yeah, it's got to be Bears fans.
Yeah, I have it written down somewhere, like since like 1990, all the different quarterbacks the Bears have had, like starting, and then, you know, that brings in like the Brett Favre for whatever to Aaron Rodgers, now to Jordan Love. So we've had, like, you know, besides like playoff games that weren't, you know, when Matt Flynn played, and I mean stuff like that. I mean, that wasn't like a consistent starter. Well, you go over like the last 30 years of the Packers, and we've had legit 3 quarterbacks start 95% of those games. Then you go to the Bears, and it's just like I was getting writer's cramp writing on all these quarterbacks. And one of the very first Bears fans I had on my podcast, like I was, you know, people know me on X. I you know, obviously I have a side of humor to me, and like the first question I asked was like, do you own a VCR? You know, to like watch all your team's Super Bowl from 1985, all the highlights. And they're like, no, we have YouTube now. It's like, yeah, but still, just the concept of, you know, just kind of razzing them. You know, you can do the same for Cowboy fans. You know, in the 90s, they didn't have DVDs back then.
Mhm.
It's all on VHS. But
Yep.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Bears fans, I mean, all fans are cool, but it's just like the general. I would go with like Bears fans and Vikings fans, because you got the Vikings fans that
Mhm.
like when they do that stupid skull, that whatever, in the fan. Oh, it just drives me nuts.
Yeah.
It's like a big cult. But then for
Mhm.
them, seeing us saying "Go Pack,
Yeah.
Go" is the same exact thing. So I guess whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
I
I think I like yeah, I think I like Lions fans, the best of all of them. Like, I actually kind of like the whole team. Their fan base isn't that bad. Like,
well, and the thing with the Lions is, I I mean, they've been through almost 40 years of hell.
yeah, they're not. Yeah, yeah, that too.
I mean, how many? I can't remember how many drafts in a row where they would have like the first pick in the draft, and they draft like the top receiver, like Carlos Rogers or Mike Williams, or you know what I'm saying? And they just were nothing, turned out to be nobodies,
Mhm.
And then I remember seeing games where they're wearing bags over their head, and it's this. But it's a feel good story though, looking at the Lions fans, and actually they have something to
Yeah.
look forward to.
Mhm.
17 days out of the year. Oh man,
Yeah.
where do you think? Like, what do you think the Packers' record is going to be this year? Like, what's your guess?
I think I did make a prediction up my head right now. I'd say be 11-5, or I guess not 11-5, 11-6, 12-5 ish. 17 game season has just thrown me through for a loop here, but yeah, somewhere in that range, I think.
Yeah, I'm going 12-5. I think
Okay.
they'll be a strong team. I think it's going to be tough with them in Detroit in the North, but I'm going to go with like the
Yeah.
top three in the NFC overall. I think is going to be San Francisco, the Packers, and the Lions. I think it's going to shake
Yep.
out that way in the NFC for sure.
Mhm.
I just think that if our defense can stop the run up the middle and shut down the top receivers, and if the defense can get some touchdowns, and then we get our offensive touchdowns, obviously, I think we'll be a good
Mhm.
team this year. I think, and we'll have, like I said, 12-5. I think the Packers go to the Super Bowl this year. I really do. It's like I'd rather.
Yeah.
It's like being a fan. You always want to say, "Oh, they're gonna go 17-0 or 15-2 or whatever." But I like the method. It's not really a method. It's just kind of how it shook out in 2010 when the Packers were a wild card team, and then they just ran the table. I'd more rather
Mhm.
have like a wild card, 6 seed, and go to the top versus a few years ago when we were like the top seed in the North or in the NFC, and we got beat. Like the first game of the playoffs that we played, we got beat by, was it San Francisco? You get all that
Mhm.
expectations, and then it's just, as a fan, it's like, oh no, it just ruins your week, 2 weeks, whatever it is. I don't know.
Mhm.
I just think with this young team, I think they're going to realize their potential, and they're going to try to maximize it, and I think they're going to turn some heads again this year, I believe, and they're going to make some noise in the NFC for sure.
Yeah.
What is your most memorable Packer game that you have seen?
I'd have to go back. I don't remember what year it was. 15 or 16 range, maybe. Um, don't quote me on that, but uh, the Cardinals in the divisional round, and it ended up being a loss. But I just remember, um, and just Larry Fitzgerald, Carson Palmer days, and crazy game back and forth, and fourth quarter. Time winding down, Packers need to go down and score, and Rodgers just throws back-to-back Hail Marys. I think both were to Jeff Janis, of all people, and got them into overtime, and then immediately had their hearts broken by Larry Fitzgerald. But um, that was just a crazy game to watch and experience. And I mean, we were going crazy, jumping up and down, screaming, that type of thing, like fans tend to do when it's a game like that. It was just an absolute nail biter, and, really crazy stuff executed there by Rodgers
You know,
to, position to win that game. But
what's I ultimately get like PTSD when people bring up that game. I don't mind that you guys bring it up, but it's just, how many times did Rodgers take shots to the face, like legit, like face mask, and that isn't that a flag? And it was never called. It's like, how can the refs not see that?
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
that was crazy.
that was a good game. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a great game. It's just, and that takes me on. I don't want to rant about the refs, because that could go on for days about the refs. We all could go on rant for days about the refs, but it's just, it's we're, but then you'd have like Lions fans saying, well, what about the phantom face mask on the Hail Mary against us? So I don't know. Did you think in that game against the Lions where he threw the Hail Mary, do you think that was a face mask? It happened so quick, and it's such a small fraction of, like, his helmet kind of moved, but I don't know. What do you think?
I'm not sure if I remember the game specifically.
The Hail Mary.
I remember a Lions game where there was a Hail Mary.
Yeah, that game.
Okay, yeah, a face mask on Rodgers, you're saying?
Yep.
Okay. I don't remember seeing anything like that. I mean, I've watched that play a few times since then, and it was a crazy play. I didn't notice any face mask, but I also maybe wasn't looking very closely.
Yeah. So there was a play where I mean, I just know like the ultimate outcome of that game, but what led to that Hail Mary, I think, was I think it was like an incomplete pass, whatever, but there was a flag thrown because during that play, like, a Lions player came close, if not touching it, came super close to what a face mask. So then there was like then they got another chance. Then that's when the Hail Mary happened, and Richard Rodgers caught the ball, and all these Lions fans are saying that wasn't a face mask. So
yeah.
What are your?
I mean, that's the way it goes.
Yeah. What are your expectations for the game tonight against the Eagles?
Well, it's hard to have too many expectations in week one, or at least I try not to have too many, because it's a lot of unknowns, and a lot of change for both of these teams. Eagles have new offensive and defensive coordinators, so it should be interesting. I'm very interested in seeing what happens, but I'm just hoping that we see some very positive signs from the defense, and I am very excited to see what guys like Eric Stokes and some of these new guys in the secondary that we haven't seen a whole lot. I'm a big Eric Stokes fan, and so I'd love to see him kind of get back to how he was playing in his rookie year, and now that he's finally healthy. So as far as expectations, I expect the offense to start strong. I really think they will. I think they're hungry. I think they're ready to go, and so I think we can expect pretty good things out of the offense, and we'll see what happens with the defense.
Yeah, I think offense is going to come out on fire. Defense, I think, will come out fast. Special teams, I just want consistency out of the kicker. The new kickoff rule, I'm not a fan
Yeah.
of, so I'm not going to speak on the kickoff rule. I think it's stupid. But I just want to see improvement on the defense, I guess. We didn't really see a lot of the key players play this preseason. I know I was actually at the Baltimore preseason game in Green Bay a couple weekends ago, and the backups looked amazing. I thought they played good, but then again, you had the Ravens backups. So, I think they played good. Actually, I think Oladipo? I always get him and the Victor Oladipo mixed up in the NBA. Whatever, Victor, or is it Keaton? Keaton. Oh, I'm saying Victor. Anyways, Oladipo, whatever his name is. I'm excited to see the safeties that we drafted in action. I'm excited to see Cooper. I don't think we saw much of him this preseason. I'm excited to see Van Ness take a big jump. I'm excited to see how Devontae Wyatt plays, see how much disruption Kenny Clark can make, Rashawn Gary. Just the whole defense. Just, you get to that quarterback, and even I coach youth football, and it's like you tell the defense, hit them first. Don't give them a chance to hit you. You go and hit them first, catch them off guard, get to the quarterback. He's going to throw the ball quicker than he wants to. It's going to create turnovers, and then, the rest is history. But I'm excited for our defense to set our offense up. It's going to be nice. I think it's going to happen quite a bit this year. So, that's definitely what I'm looking forward to. And gosh, it's about 20 minutes and the game is on. So 25 minutes.
Yeah.
So,
exciting.
Listen, Landry, I really want to thank you for being on tonight before the game, and talking Packers. I'd love to check back in with you during the season, kind of get your opinion on how the season's going and get your takes. I'd love to hear what you think of the team during the season. If you wouldn't mind, would you be able to tell the people where they can find you at on social media?
Yeah, no problem. You can find the podcast, Cheeseheads Weekly, on YouTube at Cheeseheads_weekly, and anywhere you get podcasts on audio platforms. You can check out my website, greatcove.net/cheeseheads. And also you can follow me on social media, Instagram, Facebook, X, Instagram and Facebook at Cheeseheads_weekly, X at Cheeseheads_W, listed there. But give the show a follow, rating, anything would be appreciated, and appreciate anyone who able to listen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun. You're a fun follow. You're very knowledgeable with football and the Packers, and it's good to keeping our thoughts and opinions on the Packers going, and it's just fun to be able to meet up with you and able to do an episode with you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate you having me on.
All right. Well, I'm going to leave with actually one question I forgot. I forgot one question. I have to ask you. What is your favorite cheese? Type of cheese?
Wow. I'd probably have to go with cheddar. I'm a big fan of cheddar. Like, you can eat it with anything, like on sandwich, just plain, great all around.
Plain cheddar. Okay.
Yeah.
I went and picked up some beer cheddar this morning.
Okay.
It's a big thing in this part of Wisconsin. This beer cheddar cheese. There's a sub shop that does like beer cheddar or beer cheddar soup. So, yeah, awesome. Well, again, thank you for being on today. I really appreciate it, and hopefully we come out tomorrow with a victory Saturday.
That would be amazing.
All right. Well, thanks again, Landry, and go Pack Go.
Okay, go Pack Go.